So how kind of research are you doing, and at what point do you decide to become a resource for authors, and how does that happen?
It was a spur of the moment thing. It was seriously one of those ideas, the kind you wish you always had when you were writing. I was upstairs on my computer, and I suddenly had the thought, I would really like to start a blog for other writers, and I would like it to be anonymous so that it's kind of safe to share whatever, without my name attached or anybody else's name attached. And so I opened up Blogger, and I started the blog. My youngest daughter was, I think, 7 months old at the time. So I was in the midst of nursing a baby and doing the mom thing. And that was my life then. And it just took off. I think there was a need for it at the time. There weren't a lot of contests out there. Like now there's so much to choose from for writers for contests, and Twitter has really helped that to explode for writers. But when I was starting Miss Snark's First Victim, that wasn't true. So I think it was.
You were pretty much the game in town, at least for middle grade and young adult folks.
I think in the beginning, I think I was, yeah, and I think that's what drew my original readership to me. You've been part of my tribe for a really long time.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, so
I wanted to ask you about that. Why didn't I ever win a contest, Authoress?
You know what?
That's not true. Because I did win a copy of Agent Demystified at one point. I still have it.
Okay, yes, it makes me feel better.
No, anytime I talk to writers of our genre who've been active in the last few years, if I mention Miss Snark's First Victim, Authoress Anon, or they'll mention it. Sometimes they'll mention it in combination with Middle Grade Ninja, which always makes me feel good. Because I must be somebody if I'm getting mentioned in the same sentence as Miss Snark's First Victim. Now we're talking. They're literary rambles in there. My God. And all of the rest of their wonderful blogs. I was going to name yours next, but I'm going to stop now before I make enemies because I'll leave somebody out. So let's talk a little bit about everything. So we'll remind people why the name Miss Snark's First Victim.
Well, and I was going to say that what was probably the premier blog for writers at the time was not mine. It was Miss Snark, the literary agent. And I was an avid reader of her blog because she gave so much insider information, which was what I was so hungry for at the time. And what happened was she, just off the cuff on one of her blog posts, mentioned, hey, if any of you are brave enough to send me your first page, do it, and I'll critique it on the blog. And she just kind of said it in passing. It wasn't like something she was announcing. And I was like, well, dang, I'm going to do that. So I sent it to her. I emailed it to her, and she wrote me back, and she's like, hey, are you serious? Because I'll do this on my blog if you want me to. And then I got all nervous. Now, here's a typical dumb new writer thing. I said to her, okay, you can do that, but will you please change the names? Because I was afraid like people would like steal the names of my characters. I'm like, yeah. So,
I'm assuming this was not Stormrise.
No. No. It was called The Seeds of Perrin-Fey. That's what it was called. So she did. She changed them to ridiculous names, like really funny, ridiculous names. But she put it up there, and she said, this incredibly brave snarkling has put her work out, blah, blah, blah. And she crucified my work in the nicest possible way. But it was not good writing. It was very overwritten, purple prose. I didn't know what I was doing. And but I fortunately was able to receive what she said, and instead of getting crushed, because you never know how you're going to respond. And it was my first thing like that, where I threw my work out into the void and got feedback. But it actually was a pivotal point in my writing, because I was able to take some of the things that she said and incorporate them as I continued to write. So it was a big step in my learning process. So when I made my blog, I named it Miss Snark's First Victim, because I was really her first victim. It was me. And so I
How long after that experience are you forever celebrating this and attaching it to yourself?
I don't even remember my timeline anymore because I'm getting so old. Yeah.
Happens to us all. You younger esteemed audience members will find out what we're talking about soon enough.
Yes, they will.
So within what, a year, maybe less?
I would say, well, I'm trying to think because I did finish the horrible novel and I went, oh dear, I actually queried it. And the scariest part of all is that I got a request for a partial from Donald Moss. Really? And he was like my dream agent at the time. And so this was all, I really think this was all like within a year's time. I really do. It was pretty compact. And Donald was kind enough to write me a personalized rejection letter, which I would have framed if I, didn't have a husband to tease me. But I was so thrilled that he took the time to do this. And it's, as you know, very unusual for an agent to give a personalized rejection. But he did, and he gave me some suggestions, and I, of course, was stupid enough to do some revisions and then re-query him and said, well, you said this and blah, 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 and I wrote, oh, this poor man probably just really regretted writing me the personalized letter. So within this
You wrote him a little bit of an argumentative response then?
It was, no, actually, it was very sycophantic, very, oh, thank you so much, and I made these changes, and I hope you'll read this, and yeah, it was, no, I was definitely not one of those in your face, how dare you authors. I know, I've heard the horror stories too.
Anytime Janet Reed posts one, I'm secretly excited because it's like when you see something bad happen to somebody else, like lightning just struck. Okay, I'm probably in the clear for a little bit.
Right. I'm just gonna step over here, right?
Thanks for stepping on the landmine for all of us. Appreciate it.
Yep.
So Miss Stark's First Victim had to start off relatively small. When did you start to notice your readership had grown well beyond just your friends and family?
Well, actually, it was pretty fast because it was only a month or two after I started the blog that I had the idea for the secret agent contests. And so I started to write emails to agents introducing myself and telling them about this idea. And Holly Root was the first agent I got for the secret agent contest. And because I had an actual agent coming onto my blog, I think the word spread pretty quickly. Like, wow, there's a contest with an actual agent. Writers love this stuff. This is a great opportunity. Unfortunately for Holly, I had not put parameters in place because I didn't know that I would need them. And she ended up, it was well over 100 entries. I want to say in the 120s, I can't remember now, that she read through and critiqued every single one while she was out of town in the boonies somewhere where there was bad connection on the internet. And she just put hours into this thing, and I felt terrible. So after that experience, I decided, okay, I'm going to have to cap this out at 50 entries per contest. And so that's where that came from. But that first one, oh my goodness, she just really went the extra mile for me and without knowing me. So I was super thankful for her kindness.
We should always shout out the greatness of Holly Root. Go back, I don't remember how many episodes back it is, esteemed audience, but listen to my conversation with Holly Root. One of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had about publishing. And I love every literary agent who's ever appeared on the show or on the blog, but Holly Root in particular is just a very special person that's wonderful to talk with. I'm so glad that it was her and not a different literary agent that would have told you to drop dead and maybe killed the whole Miss Stark's Victim early.
You're right. It could have been really bad. It could have just blown up, and she was so gracious. So I really have her to thank for kicking off the whole secret agent thing.